Today's episode is brought to you by Patreon. If you're interested in supporting the show, go to patreon.com/JoshuaVelas and become a $2 backer today and get early access to the new episodes. I'll be leaving a link in the description down below, but for now, on to today's episode. You're listening to the Augmented Experience podcast. I'm your host, as usual, Joshua Velas. I'm a student, musician, and a gamer at heart. Join me as I sit down every week to talk about all the latest news in the technology, business, and video game world. I hope you guys enjoy. All right, everybody. Welcome back to the show. My name is Joshua Velas. I am your host as usual, and obviously welcome back to the show. Today's episode 124 of the show, and before we get started, we're going to do a bit of house cleaning real quick because, well, we always like to do it around here anyway, so does it really matter, But you guys know that I like doing it. Like, I'm not going to lie to you guys. Like, I enjoy doing the house cleaning because, like I said, it's an easy way to get a lot of things off my chest. It's an easy way to address a lot of things that need to be addressed, and it also makes things very easy to transition to. And, so, pretty much going right into it. Thank you guys for coming back and listening. It really means a lot to me. You guys have constantly kept coming back and listening to these episodes, downloading them, sharing them. If you're watching on YouTube, then you get to see the video version, and everywhere else you get to hear the audio version. I do also want to say thank you guys because we recently hit over 100 and we hit over 1,800 total downloads. So we actually blew past the 1,700, and then we jumped right into 1,800 because somebody or just a lot of people just did a ton of downloads, and it was crazy because it's like I wasn't expecting to get like over 100 plus downloads like in just one day. So I greatly appreciate that. You guys are awesome. You guys continue to come back and listen and support me, so it just means a lot to me. Aside from that, I also want to say thank you guys that watch on YouTube because you guys are great. Thank you guys that watch on, or I would say listen to the show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you like to listen to podcasts, because it really means a lot to me that you guys constantly keep coming back and listening to these episodes, because it does really mean a lot to me. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I also want to say thank you guys for all the love and support. I just recently launched my photography business that I'm starting to do freelancing photography and also a bit of video work as well, and it's really exciting. I'm excited to go on this journey because this is something I thought about for a while. I've talked about it. I've definitely been improving as a photographer and a videographer to the point that I feel comfortable doing that for other people. So, if you guys are interested in that, you obviously can hit me up, and because you guys obviously know how to reach me anyway. So, my social media handles. I'll also be leaving a link to my photography business, the Instagram page in the description, so you guys can go follow it and let me know what you guys think if you just want to see my journey and see how things go. But aside from that, it's time that we get into the topic today because we have a good amount to talk about. And it's very interesting because of how we got this news, because something that was going on in the YouTube tech space, if you guys aren't aware of what goes on in the YouTube tech space, that Jon Prosser, obviously Jon is one of the biggest YouTube tech leakers right now in terms of Apple because of how accurate Jon has been with a lot of the Apple leaks. But at the same time, Jon also runs a news show called Front Page Tech. And during his hiatus that he took for 2 months, because a lot of people were like, where the heck is Jon? Hasn't uploaded a video in a long time. And we found out that during the hiatus, he was doing a lot of personal things. And when he was set to come back, there was actually a very bad situation that happened, that his account got hacked. And it was just a big situation. It ended up leading to his account getting deleted. And, he ended up getting it back, thankfully, after a couple of weeks, because YouTube was kind of being a pain in the butt about things. But thankfully, Jon got his channel back and everything went smoothly. And now that he's back, full time doing YouTube again, we got some interesting developments from Jon about things going on in Apple. As I said, Jon is very credible when it comes to Apple leaks. Yes, he got one thing wrong, which happens, because like I said, these are all leaks. These are all rumors. None of this stuff is 100% confirmed unless if we're getting a lot of reports of the same, you get what I'm saying, of the same thing confirming this. So we have to take these things with a grain of salt. But with Jon coming back and, back on Front Page Tech, explaining the whole situation. I'll be leaving a link to the video in the description down below. That in that video, Jon talked about a folding iPhone and confirmed that there is a folding iPhone in the works. And this is pretty important, mainly because a lot of people were expecting Apple to get into the folding smartphone game. It only made sense. Samsung's been doing it. You have Huawei doing it. You have Microsoft doing it. You have LG doing it. But everybody's doing their own implementation of it. Granted, I consider LG's implementation is just a phone with a separate case. Well, I'd say a phone with a screen case, not really a foldable. I don't consider that a foldable because that's not what's going on there. It's not two pieces of glass folding. Like, it's literally a phone being dropped in a case to become two screens. That's literally what it is. Same thing with the Surface Duo. The Surface Duo is not a foldable phone. It's really just two phones slapped together, basically down with a hinge down the middle, and it just clearly folds. It's not really a folding phone, because a folding phone means one piece folding all together, like the Galaxy Fold or the Z Flip, and those things, yes, are foldables. And granted, those are the current popular ones, because Huawei's implementation was just piss poor, and Samsung's first implementation was also bad, because like I said, the Galaxy Fold, we've already covered it many times and stated how it just wasn't a good idea. The Z Flip was a much better implementation, which I applaud them. We also have the Moto Razr as well that uses that style of implementation of the old school flip phones. But with the Apple folding phone, which I wouldn't even call this a foldable based on what we saw, and like I said, I will be leaving a link to Jon's video down below. I'm not going to be playing clips from Jon's video because, like I said, I'd rather let Jon explain his thoughts and perspective of things, because I have my own thoughts and perspective on it. And it's very interesting on what we saw, that it takes inspiration from the Surface Duo, that this design does take heavy inspiration from that style. That's why nobody really considers it a folding phone, because it's two separate pieces of glass, joined together by a fabric hinge. That's what Jon said. And there's also a patent going around that you could Google it, that there's an Apple folding patent going around that you could just Google it and it pops up. And it's very interesting because it makes sense that Apple would do it that way. I know a lot of people said, Apple's not going to go out of their way to do something similar to like what Samsung did, where they just went all in and they made a phone that just was really bad. The Galaxy Fold was a terrible idea. Not gonna lie, Chief, the first implementation was very bad. There were so many flaws that it's not even funny. And yes, I get it. A lot of people are gonna say, Josh, what do you expect? It's a first generation product. Like, yes, I get that, but that doesn't make much sense. You get what I'm saying? Like, you willingly produced a faulty product and pushed it out on the market for like close to $2,000. Like, I don't know about that, Chief, like, and yes, I get why Apple doesn't really see the need to drop this phone immediately, because even Jon said in his video, he doesn't know when this will come out. This is just a prototype. This is the current prototype that they have, but Apple definitely has been working on a folding phone, and it only makes sense. Do I believe that this phone will come out anytime soon? Nah, Chief, this thing ain't coming out anytime soon. Not realistically. But I do believe that Apple in time will refine the folding design and actually make a foldable, which, even though I don't really consider this a folding phone, based on what we saw, it just doesn't look like it. But what I do agree that Apple will do, and that's actually very interesting because Jon mentioned the same thing, is that the display seems seamless, that there is no, it doesn't seem like there is two separate displays like the Surface Duo, where you can obviously tell it's two separate screens, that there's a clear divide down the middle. With this, it's a very seamless transition where it just seems like one piece, but it really isn't. It's actually two. And it's very interesting, to say the least, because I know a lot of people are intrigued by the folding market. I know a lot of people are like, this is the future. I still think it's not. I still think it's a stupid idea that doesn't make much logical sense. And I get it. Smartphone designs are getting boring, but you also have to keep in mind, like, a lot of people that actually pay attention to the industry know that the folding market is not the future, because folding phones is not the future. I honestly think we're going to do away with smartphones in the near future. I think that's what's going to happen, is that smartphones will go, I wouldn't say the way of the dinosaurs, but we're going to develop new technology that kind of makes having a smartphone obsolete. that takes away what makes a smartphone. Like calls and communications, that we're probably going to have like wireless headsets that just do it on the fly, or say like wristwatches or communicators and stuff, like, you know, that cool high-tech fancy stuff you see in all the sci-fi movies, like how people communicate. And it's interesting because I know Apple is not going to release an unpolished design. We know that for a fact because it's just how they operate. I think there's a clip going around that talks about Steve Jobs saying that they don't produce crap. Basically, that's a summarized version of it that I take from it. Like, I'm not going to say verbatim that's what Steve Jobs said, but you get the gist of what it was about, that Apple doesn't like to ship crap. They don't like to ship unpolished products that haven't been tested. They don't like playing unsafe with that kind of stuff. They really don't. And they rather wait that a product is perfect, that it is the best possible thing that they can make before they push it to market. Granted, will it be perfect? No, we're still going to find flaws in it, but we have to be honest with ourselves that we know Apple's not going to rush this out. They have no reason to. Like, they're still the industry leader. They're still selling more phones than everybody else. And even in the pandemic, which let's call this the pandemic era, Apple has been doing far better than everyone else without any issues. They've definitely converted a lot of Android users to iOS during the pandemic, which doesn't make much logical sense because if you think about it, we're currently in a time where people are being unemployed, where money is very tight for many people. And the fact that a lot of people were able to switch to an iPhone from Androids with no question this year at an alarming rate is like I said, it's very interesting. It doesn't make sense, but the numbers don't lie. The statistics don't lie because that's what it's showing. And it makes sense that Apple realizes that, hey, we don't need to push out this folding phone immediately. We don't. And I agree with them. They don't need to hurry up and push this out. Like, there's not really any good competition on the market. Like, the Z Flip, yes, it's a very fancy phone, but it still has flaws. It's still annoying to deal with. The Galaxy Fold is, like I said, still like the Galaxy Fold 2, hopefully with all the refinements, it's a better phone. It's still not practical because, like I said, these mugs are still expensive. Not gonna lie, cheap. Like, these are pretty expensive phones. Not gonna lie. And I think with like a folding iPhone, it's a very interesting idea because, like I said, a lot of people have been waiting for this. They want Apple to see what Apple can do. They want to see how can Apple push the needle. And Jon said the same thing. It's very interesting. Like, we knew this patent's been going around for a while, and it's good to hear that it's confirmed that they are working on a folding phone. And the prototype right now that they have is similar in style to the Surface Duo. The only difference is that the display seems like it keeps going and there's no clear division between the two displays, and it's using a fabric hinge. But it makes sense why this thing isn't going to get rushed out anytime soon and why it's a prototype and why it's still stuck in the lab somewhere, because Apple doesn't want to ship crap. They don't just want to push this thing to the market and just be like, hey, you know, here you go, guys. Here's a folding iPhone. We know you guys have been waiting for this. Give us like $2+ grand. And then like a few weeks later, everyone's like, hey, bud, this thing's breaking. They're not going to do that. Apple is not like that. Would straight up be suicide. That would be career suicide. That's business suicide to do that. Because think about it. Samsung got a crap ton of heat for that with the Galaxy Fold the first time around. The fact that people were getting it and it was literally breaking on them without doing anything. Granted, yes, do I also agree that reviewers were being dumb because they were taking off the plastic film that clearly wasn't a screen protector, that it was actually the display? Yes, I think that was incredibly dumb. Do I also think it's Samsung's fault for not making it very clear that that display shouldn't have been taken off? Yes, but it definitely put a sour taste in people's mouth about a folding phone. Yes, I get it. There's a lot of people that still use the Galaxy Fold. And when the Z Flip came out, a lot of people were happy because they were happy with that style. But there's also a lot of concerns in terms of durability with folding phones. You know, the fact that it's not really glass that's bending or folding. It's not really glass. It's just plastic because glass doesn't fold. And then you also have to keep in mind things like, dust and water resistance, the fact that these things are not the best durability machines. And it makes sense, not going to lie, Chief, that Apple just doesn't see a need to push this envelope. Yes, is it nice to hear that they definitely have one in the works right now? Yes, it is great to hear that. But even now, most people are focused on the iPhones coming out at the end of the year because those things are still a whole different mess based on everything going on right now, because the fact that we're hearing delays, the fact that we're hearing features being removed, there's a lot of things that are going on with the new iPhones that are coming out this year that it makes sense that Apple isn't really giving so much priority to this folding phone, because they're like, look, our bread and butter is still making good money. Do we really have to care? Like, I get it. It makes sense. Like, Apple knows that, yes, their hardware sales do good, but most of their sales are coming from software. As long as they can get an iPhone in your hand, or an Apple device in your hand in general, they can sell you services. And this is something that a lot of people still haven't caught on to, because they're still under the assumption that Apple has to make the best hardware, when it's like, yes and no. Yes, they do want to make the best hardware because their hardware is still ahead of a lot of their competition, but they do realize that the future is mostly software. And that's kind of a hard pill to swallow. That's why I said, is like, I'm intrigued by the idea that there is going to be a folding iPhone. I still don't think that this is going to be the solution that Apple really cares about or really is looking for. Because like I said, is they're like, okay, we can make a folding phone. Other people are making folding phones. But I will say that if Apple does make a folding phone, it will set the trend for everybody else, because think about it like this. When the iPhone 10 came out with the iPhone 8 and the 8 Plus, it was the first phone that had a notch because it had Face ID. It had really good Face ID. And then every other Android manufacturer started putting a notch on their phone, not for Face ID, but just because it looked like an iPhone. And it was such a horrible idea, but you also have to keep in mind, Apple is the leader in this space. They're single-handedly the leader. Whatever they do, other people do as a response. And Apple has shown time and time again that when they deem that something is worthy of trend setting, they'll do it, then everybody else starts doing it. So one thing I'd say, one super benefit that I see from Apple making a folding phone is primarily the fact that it would help push the market into other manufacturers making a folding phone and pushing the boundaries and the envelopes of what's considered possible. And it only makes sense. Granted, Samsung has been doing it for like a while now. With the Galaxy Fold 2, it'll be their second foldable. But it still doesn't mean they're the industry leader, because like I said, even though they're doing it, that doesn't mean everyone else is doing it. Apple, on the other hand, when they do something, everybody pays attention, because they're like, oh, that's making a ton of money for them. Maybe we should try that. Because like I said, it happened with the notch. There was no logical reason to have a notch on any other smartphone after the iPhone X came out. And yet they still kept putting a notch just because it looked like an iPhone. And yes, we got the teardrop notch, and we got holes in displays, and whole other ball game. But in my opinion, I am excited to see what Apple can do with the folding smartphone. I think this is definitely what the industry needed in regards to this. Like, it adds more to the space that needed to be added to, because like I said, the folding smartphone market is only consistent of Motorola, Samsung, and Huawei. But I think if you put Apple in the mix, then you'll definitely get something great. In my opinion, I think you will. Yes, I also understand that, I don't include the Surface Duos. I don't include the LG phones, because those are not foldables. Those are just phones with a separate screen. They're not attached like a foldable phone, because it's not folding. It's not a folding phone. Like, one of them is literally just a phone with a case that has another screen. The other one is just two displays stuck together by a hinge, and they're clearly separate, and it doesn't really fold. It's just, it's like a book, like you don't fold a book. You just open and close it. And the Galaxy Fold, on the other hand, because that's actually folding. It's a display on a hinge. With the other ones, it's just two separate displays on a hinge, opening and closing. That's all they are. And that's something a lot of people need to realize. In my opinion, it's a heated debate. I don't want to go into it because, like I said, it's really, really annoying to deal with that debate. But let me know what you guys think. How do you guys feel about Apple making a quote unquote folding phone. Like, do you guys care? Do you guys not care? Is there anything that you guys have that comes to mind when you think about this? Like, how do you guys feel about the whole situation? You know, like, are you excited? Are you not excited? Let me know in the comment section down below, whether you're listening on YouTube, or I'd say you're watching it on YouTube, but on Spotify, you're obviously listening. Same thing goes for Apple Podcast. But in my opinion, I'm excited, but at the same time, I don't really care so much. I will also say, I'm sorry for the background noise. Like I said, as you guys know, I'm in my dorm. They're obviously doing cleaning today, so, you know, I can't really do much. But thank you guys for your love and support. It really, really, really means a lot to me, you guys. Constantly keep coming back. You keep listening to these episodes. You keep downloading them. You keep sharing them. And I just hope that you guys continue to be safe out there. Don't do anything dumb. Please have a wonderful weekend. You know, take care of everyone around you, because these are crazy times, not gonna lie. And like I said, if you are new here, you know, if you're watching on YouTube, please click the subscribe button, click the like button, dislike button, whichever one you like to click the notification bell so you get notified when these episodes go live. And if you're listening on Spotify, YouTube, well, if you're listening on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, or wherever you like to listen to your podcast, you know, let me know down below, what do you guys think? And, you know, like, share it, you know, share it with your friends, download it, whatever you guys want to do with it. But I really, really appreciate you guys for everything. You guys continue to be awesome. I love your love and support. Like, yes, I do love your love, but it really means a lot to me. And like I said, if you guys also want to support my photography biz, feel free to go down below and click the link and go to the Instagram page and follow it. And, you know, if you want photos or video done, you can just let me know and hit me up. But I will also say, if you want to become a Patreon backer, the link is down below so you can become a Patreon backer and get early access to the episodes for just $2 a month. But until next time, guys, I love you guys to death. Please continue to be safe, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye, guys.
Hey there. Thank you for listening to today's episode. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for taking time out of your day and listening to today's episode. If you're interested in supporting the show, whether it be financially, clicking the follow button, or just sharing the episode, it all works for me, guys. Thank you guys so much for your time, and I love you guys to death.